Hi, thank you for clicking on this video. This is my very first video and it's going to be about negative thoughts. I'm not a doctor or a psychologist, but this video is about a few things that I learned from my own experience. We all experience negative thoughts as human beings from one degree to another, but sometimes they can define who we are and the way we see ourselves and the way we see the world around us. So we have to make sure that we are aware of those negative thoughts and we are constantly replacing them and changing them to more realistic ones so we can actually enjoy our lives a lot more than if we're drenched in negative thoughts and feelings. The first thing that I learned is that thoughts create your emotions. What I mean by that is when you are feeling an unpleasant emotion, for example, whether it's sadness or anxiety when I say anxiety, I mean the emotion anxiety. When you're feeling anxious, I don't mean if you have a disorder, but if you're feeling anxious or if you're feeling sadness, those unpleasant emotions, they're not necessarily caused by an event. They're more likely caused by a specific thought that you have as a result of an event. So, for example, if you have an exam coming up and you start to become anxious and you start to stress eat, or you starve yourself because you're so stressed out you can't even eat anything, though you're having negative thoughts that relate to that exam. And those negative thoughts can go something like, I'm going to fail at this exam that's coming up. I don't know what it's about. It's probably so hard. It's just all kinds of negative thoughts that are going through your head. And you might not even be aware of it, but you feel that stress. You feel that anxiousness tugging at you. So the second thing that I learned is that you have to be aware of this. And this one is very common sense, really. You have to make sure that you're aware of those thoughts so you can change them. If you're not aware of them, it's very hard to change those thoughts. And it can be hard to become aware of them, trust me. Sometimes it feels like there's a radio playing in your head and there's so many different stations on, so it's hard to figure out what thoughts am I really having about this, especially when there are, anxious feelings and your mind is racing. But whenever you feel a certain unpleasant emotion, take a step back and think about what was the first thought that I had, or maybe the second thought that I had as a result of whatever event that took place at that specific moment, and maybe write it down or just note it in your head. The third thing that I wanted to share and that I learned was, don't feed the negativity loop. So when you believe a specific negative thought, you find evidence in your day-to-day life that validate that negative belief or thought. So let me give you an example in my own experience. One thought that I used to have a lot is, I'm inadequate, meaning I'm not enough. I'm inadequate, I'm not enough. So then I would actively try and find ways to prove that. So let's say I failed an exam, then I would use that as an evidence that I am inadequate. I can't get anything right. And anything that it is, whether I spilled water or anything, no matter what it is, I would just use that to prove this specific negative thought, which strengthens it. And then you start to believe it a lot more, which is crazy. So you want to make sure that you stop that. So do not feed the negativity loop. Otherwise, it's just a cycle that doesn't end. The more you believe, once you have a negative thought, and then you start to find evidence for it, the more you'll start to believe that negative thought. So the fourth thing is, replace the negative thoughts with realistic ones. Saying or listening to affirmations. And what I mean by affirmations are positive words, such as I'm happy, or I'm amazing, or I'm wonderful. That doesn't work for me, and it's never worked for me. I don't know about you, but it has not worked for me. So what I've decided to do is come up with realistic counter thoughts to the thoughts that I was having constantly. So let's say the thought that I'm trying to counteract is I'm not enough, then I can jot down or even note it in my head that even though I make mistakes, I'm trying to be better than I was, or I'm trying to be better than yesterday. And that's a more realistic thought, because then I can find specific instances in my day-to-day life where that is true, where I am trying to be better, I am trying to help other people or trying at least. So it doesn't matter, you're focusing more on the positivity rather than fishing for that negative evidence for that negative thought, if that makes sense. So the more you can focus on what you're doing, that strengthens your realistic thought, the more you'll be able to replace the negative thoughts, and the more you'll be able to shift that mindset and actually see yourself and the world around you as they are, rather than the negative interpretations that you're putting on everything. So just to emphasize that last point, which I think is huge, the goal is to replace the negative thoughts with more realistic ones, not necessarily extremely positive, such as, I'm strong, or I'm positive, or I'm amazing, which all of them could be true for you. But you're more likely to believe realistic thoughts than strong positive thoughts. So just to summarize, the first thing you got to do is to become aware of those negative thoughts. The second thing is to not feed it. So don't look for specific instances in your life that will prove that negative thought. And last thing is to find replacing thoughts, realistic ones, and then find evidence for those ones. And then you're actually focusing on positive elements of your life. You're focused on ways you can be better, ways you can improve. So then we can actually all live a less miserable life. That sounds bad. So we can all live a more joyful, actually a more realistic life, a more rational life, rather than be bombarded with these unrealistic thoughts and negative thoughts. I hope these few things helped you in any way, and please let me know in the comments below if you have certain things that have worked for you in your life and you wanted to share. I would love to read that. Thank you so much for watching, and please be the first few people that subscribe to my new channel. I just created it, and I hope this was helpful. Bye.